Genesis.
Hey, what's up? It's Genesis and I hope you're doing well. In this video, I'll be going over a simple concept that will help you improve your mixes. Although I'll be using Ableton for this video, this concept should be transferable to your DAW of choice. Before we get straight in, however, here's a disclaimer. This is not the end-all way to mix down your songs. Each song demands a different mixdown, and they may demand other details, which is why this video is intended as a general way to mix. And with each genetips video I make, the information of these videos mainly comes from my experience and theories, so it may be possible that you disagree with some of these things mentioned in this video. Everyone's different, and that's okay. Let's face it, there's an unlimited amount of ways to mix, and there's no right or wrong way to do so. But I have theorized a concept that helps me to do mixdowns, and I think it may help you too. In mixdowns, there are two sonic spaces you need to keep in mind: the dynamic space and the frequency space. Each element in the mix must occupy their own area in those two spaces. If two or more elements overlap within those spaces, the mix will tend to sound muddy and unclear. However, if the elements don't occupy enough space, then the mix will tend to sound thin and weak. But how do we tackle this problem? First, we gotta understand what these spaces are. Dynamic space is all about overall volume and differences in volume. Each element in a mix will have its own volume and its own priority. Our ears perceive louder sounds first compared to quieter sounds, and this is what I mean by priority. Typically, higher priority or higher energy sounds are the loudest and clearest sound in the mix. In a few seconds, I'll play two songs for you, and I'd like you to identify the sounds with the highest priority to the lowest priority in each mix. After the songs are played, I'll tell you my thoughts.
Can I get your phone number? Would it be alright? Would you mind? I wanna get know you. I wanna get know you. Can I get your phone number? Would it be alright? Would you mind? I wanna get know you. I wanna get know you. Hold it down, don't you feel the same way? Hold it down, we'll be on the same wavelength. Mess around and you end up in the stage. Shall we talk, then we fall? Girl, I really gotta know what is your social. Put you on notice, let's get a motive. Put your number in my phone or vice versa. I won't bite, I don't wanna hurt you. I could really change your life when I get that. My heart feels warmer, don't want any other. Let's just have each other. Let's just have each other. Your eyes, no matter how long, they glisten like sunshine. It illuminates, it stands the test of time. On peaceful days and bright blue skies, let our light align. Sunshine when you step, bright is your love and it glows from your chest. Smile from the heart and you outshine the rest. Yeah, I'm just a mess, but I gotta confess that I'm glad that we met. Oh, I can't forget the start of the days that we shared. The care in your arms when you hold me tight at night in the bed. These thoughts on my head keeps.
For the first song, the elements with the highest priority are the drums and the lead vocals, followed by the synths and the bass, and the backup vocals as the least priority. For the second song, the vocals are the highest priority, followed by the drums, guitar, and the bass. As I said before, it's different for each song, as they are different genres and more importantly, are entirely different compositions. One simple way to identify the highest priority elements in a mix is to turn down the overall volume until you can barely hear it. Lowering the volume this much will allow you to only hear the loudest elements, and thus the highest priority elements. So, the first thing we should do is to identify which elements we would like to have as the highest priority. Let's put this concept into work and let's mix an entirely unmixed example. I've quickly whipped up this idea for this video, and let's hear what we have for it at the moment. The first thing I usually do is to mix the drums within themselves, because even though the drums are treated as like one whole element, it's made up of different percussion elements. So like you have the kick, snare, and a hi-hat, but they're all under the same like drum umbrella. So I'm going to mix these within themselves first before I move on to mixing the rest of the elements together. So what I'm thinking here is usually the kick and the snare are going to be the highest priority within the drums because they define the groove and the backbeat. So I want to balance the kick and the snare first. And I want to lower down the hi-hat just so it's a bit more laid back. So now that kick is thumping and that snare or rim knock is a little bit further back because beforehand it was just a bit too loud. Oh, and also by the way, these drums are from my newly released Drum Bombs kit, and Drum Bombs contains 20 crashes, 10 rides, 30 closed hi-hats, 30 open hi-hats, 30 kicks, 30 percussions, 30 rim knocks, 10 claps, 8 snaps, 30 snares, 30 toms. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And you can get this on my website for about, I think it's £18 right now, which is a massive bargain. So if you want to go ahead and get these drums that I'm using on this video, you can go ahead and check out my website. The link is also in the description below. But yeah, plugs aside, let's move on. So now that we've got all the drums mixed together, let's hear it with everything else now. Okay, so there's a lot of clashing going on. I want to turn everything else off and mix the drums, which is one of the highest priorities in the mix for this song, with another element which I think I would want to also have a relatively high priority with. And I think that will be the bass. And right now it's pretty low. I think that should be fine. Let's move on to something else that should have the next priority below that. And I think that will be the chords. I think that's way too loud. I think that'll be fine. And next, I think that will be the melody. If you hit the red, you can either turn it down on the master or lower it before it hits the master with some effects, like this premix volume here, which I'll do for now. And then next will be the plucks. One thing I forgot to mention is that panning also counts as dynamic space, but instead of occupying a space closer to you or further away from you, it's to the left or to the right of the listener. So we can shift these elements left and right to occupy a different kind of space. So with these plucks, I want them to be further back, but I want them to be a little bit wide. I want them to be stepping left and right a little bit. This works really well with elements that have a common role, like either double tracked guitars or double tracked percussion. So then you can displace them left and right. And I'll use this view to set the panning instead, because for some reason you can't really see, other than over here in the bottom left. But I want to be able to like set it like with a fixed number. One of the things you need to keep in mind is that when you start panning things away from the center, they will usually tend to sound a little bit louder. So I want to bring these back a little bit more. Okay, now I think the chord's a bit too quiet. Let's bring it up. Alright, and that's pretty much it for the dynamic space. Even though all we're doing at this stage is adjusting the volume of each element and panning them, if we're going to pan them, it's already half of the work and it does a lot to your mix already. So I'm going to do a before and after real quick. This is before. And this is after. Likewise with dynamic space, frequency space is all about the area each element takes up in the frequency spectrum. When elements that have taken up similar sonic spaces play together, they'll tend to sound muddy. However, if all the elements together don't take up enough space, then the mix will tend to sound weak. The most common way to solve these issues is to EQ elements together. EQ is a really powerful tool, and when used alongside with setting the dynamic space, the mixdown can sound way better than just setting the volume alone. It's also useful to know the common areas of where the characteristics of certain sounds lie. Here are a few examples. 20 to 70 Hz being the sub-bass frequencies, 100 to 150 being the thumpiness of kicks, 200 to 600 being the main body of many common sounds, 1.2 to 3000 being the crack of percussion sounds, 5K and beyond being sibilance and presence. But although this may be useful, the most important thing is to use your ears to hear if it sounds right, not just to see if it sounds right. Back to the practical side, when elements in the mix sound like they're clashing in the frequency space, they're usually occupying a similar spot in the spectrum. As I said before, problems like these can be fixed with an EQ to either cut or boost certain frequencies of each element, so that they have their own space between each other. Now let's get back to the project file and apply this to our example. Okay, now let's do the frequency space. I'm going to go back to the drums again, and I'm going to focus on them. And we're going to EQ each element real quick. Okay, so the first thing I'm thinking of is that these drums sound a little bit too boxy, but I think it's mainly from the snare, and it's got a little bit too much body, so around about like, it sounds like 500 Hz-ish, 500 to 600 Hz. So let's hone in on that. Yeah, this is around 500, 600. Let's turn it down a little bit. And I want to hone in on that resonance there. Like around here. 1K. And this needs some more high end, I feel like, because it sounds a little bit too dark. Okay. Now, overall, I feel like this is a bit too extreme, so I'm going to pull it back on the scale here. There we go, that works. So what I'm pretty much doing is I'm going to go a little bit over than what I'd like, just so I can get like the gist of it. I don't need to get it like perfect in the first try, and then I can bring it down later with the scale to where I feel like will be the Goldilocks kind of area. Alright, let's go to the kick now. Doesn't have much low end I feel like, but it has a lot of thump, which is about usually this area. So I want that low end thump there. I'm not going to touch the high end I think, because there's going to be a lot of high end later, I feel like. And also like a nice soft pillowy kick would help with this this genre, this vibe. I feel like the hi-hat's fine. Yeah, nothing much I can touch here. So now we have these nice soft but crispy drums. Let's bring everything else back. Okay, now these plucks, I feel like even though I can still hear them in the mix, they're not as bright and as twangy as I'd hoped, because they sound a bit too muffled, and I want them to stand out in their own space a little bit more. And you can clearly see here as well that there's pretty much not a lot of high end there. But of course use your ears first. I'm going to bring the high end up collectively. Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah. Now it's a bit too loud because I brought up like, what is that, 15 decibels from the high end. So I'm going to bring it down a little bit. Okay, now this bass. I feel there's a lot of growl there, but not enough like low end. And the growl is usually around about 200, 300, maybe even 400 sometimes. And you can see that here as well. Like there's a lot of these overtones here, and not much of the fundamental, which is usually a lot lower down here. So I'm going to lower down this section here, and bring up the bass to make it more rounder, fuller tone. And I'm also going to bring up some of the high end, so it can still stick out of the mix a little bit. And now that a lot of the growl is lost, that's the main characteristic of this bass in particular, it sounds a lot quieter, so I'm going to bring it up. Yeah, it sounds a lot fuller now. Okay, next thing is these chords. I feel like it's taking up too much high end, and I want the melody to stand out as a little bit higher priority, because of course it's the melody, it needs to stand out a little bit more, right? And these chords are a bit too piercing, a lot of high end, so I'm gonna mellow it out a little bit. And you can hear clearly now the melody standing out a lot more, because it's leaving some of that room from the high end for the melody to come out a little bit more. Gonna be a bit more aggressive now, adding some warmth, because there's not much mid-range in this mix right now. Nice, and now we go to the melody. We're gonna let this thing ring a little bit more. I'm gonna take out some of that low end around here, and also it makes that low end sound a little bit cleaner. Boost up some of that bite that we took away from the chorus, from the chords, and bring out a little bit more of that high end that we also took away from the chords. So now it has its own space to be around. Now the problem is that we've boosted up quite a bit. We need to turn it down again. Not too much though. Okay, and I think that's pretty much it. Again, I'm not going into that much detail because this is a demonstration track. It's not an actual fully fledged track, but you can still get the idea of how to put the dynamic space and the frequency space concepts into your mixes. Again, we'll do a before and after. This is before we've used the frequency space, dynamic space. And here is after we've done both of those two spaces in mind. Okay, so remember that we've only used EQs and just adjusting the volume. We have not used anything like compressors to help with the dynamic space a little bit more, and we have not used other special effects like reverb, delays, chorus, flanger, and any of the sorts, which could obviously help the mix a little bit more, but for demonstration purposes, I'm just showing you how powerful the dynamic space and frequency space is in improving your mixes. Anyways, back to voiceover gen. And just like that, we've managed to do a general mix of our idea by only adjusting volumes and without any effects other than EQs. Of course, you can take this mix a step further by adding more complex effects, but that'll be a video for another time. And that's going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to like and sub to buff my algorithm RNG, leave a comment if you have something to say, and maybe share it to someone you think would find this useful. You can also further support me by checking out all the links in the description below. This includes my official website, my Discord, and other social medias. Once again, thanks a lot for watching and stay creative. See you in a bit.
Yeah, see me busy on the daily, free when it's midnight, pacing on my 2 feet, peace with my head high, verses take a few weeks, speak truth, gender living proof of an underdog, keep it grizzy with the brown coat, comfort when it's chilly on the outskirts, keep me warm with a sweatshirt, stay inside, take a stride in the front.